Yes, please.
A question in the marvelous chapter 12, creation. The marvelous if the whole creation is Maya, because it is in causal matter form, is it the reason why, in your proper word, Satchitananda, you say that we are living in a dream apparent life?
Yes, this what we see is only a kind of a dream. We can have experienceability, transactability, and utility in this big dream, such as we have in the dream in the night. So all the universe and all the apparent beings and the apparent objects are only due to Maya and are only part of a big dream. So it is difficult to admit that, and it is very difficult to accept and to swallow this revelation from Vedanta, but it needs patience. It needs patience and regular study and listening to the teachings and the Shastram, the authentic scriptures, and Vedanta itself and all Shastram are promising that sooner or later everybody can have confidence that this revelation is the truth. But depending on the previous karma of each and every apparent individual, this process varies. So for somebody may take 1 day or 1 second. For another one may take 3 years. For another one may take 10 years, 50 years, 60 years. For another one may take 10 lifetimes. For another one may take 1 million lifetimes. So it depends on the spiritual practice and the efforts that have been made in the previous dream lifetimes. So that's why we can see so big variation on the maturity of each and every individual. But of course, the dream in the night is can show us, as an example, how the big dream is functioning. So you are looking, for example, at a dream in the night, and you have an experience. There is experienceability. You are having a lot of different kind of experiences, and you have a lot of kind of transactions with other apparent beings in your dream. And also you have a different kind of utility. For example, if you are hungry in the dream and somebody will transact with you and will offer you a dish of food, then your hunger will go away and you will have the experience that you are not hungry anymore. So the same we can see in the big dream of life. It creates this illusion that it is real because of the experienceability, the transactability, and the utility. But that doesn't mean that it is real, really real. It is appearing real due to its borrowing existence, its existence borrowed from consciousness itself, from infinite consciousness, which is the real existence. So everything have this apparent reality, appears as real, because the nature or the substratum is real, which is consciousness. So the wave appears real in the ocean because the water is real. There is no such thing as a wave. The nature of the wave in the ocean is not waveness, in inverted commas, it is water. But we are superimposing in the wave, instead of saying that this is water, we say this is a wave. We are superimposing this name, form, or label. And the same is with whatever you see all over the apparent universe, with the apparent beings and the apparent objects and the apparent events. It is only an illusory appearance due to the substratum of consciousness. Just like there is the substratum of consciousness in the dream, and everything appears real, the same with the big dream. We will see later on in VIVEKACUDAMANI of Adi Sankaracharya in our next Zoom classes series, that Adi Sankaracharya himself is revealing through the Vedanta, through the Upanishads, that life itself is only just a big dream. And the only difference from the small dream in the night is only that it appears longer. So, and the same also was the revelation from the great sage Ramana Maharishi. All the time when they were asking him, he was answering that the only difference between the life dream, the big dream of life, and the dream in the night is only that it appears longer. There is no other difference. So this is, for somebody, this may appear bad news, and for somebody else may appear as good news. So depending on the standpoint that you want to look at it, can appear both sides. If you look at it from the standpoint of self-realization, moksha, enlightenment, then that is very good news, because this dream can never affect you, the infinite impersonal consciousness, awareness, or Brahman. But if you look at it from the standpoint or from the angle of the illusory individual entity or ego, it appears as something depressive. Like, if everything is, the ego will say, if everything is like a dream, then there is no fun, or I cannot be satisfied with that. I cannot feel comfortable, because the ego is part of the dream. So the ego don't like at all this idea or this teaching that everything, including itself as an ego, is only a dream. So most of the times the ego has a shock when it has to confront this idea, this revelation from the great lineage, authentic sampradaya of Advaita Vedanta, or the Sanatana Dharma in general, because the ego don't want to see the truth, that it does not exist and it is part of the dream. The ego wants to feel and to maintain its illusory apparent existence. And that's why Advaita Vedanta, I repeat again and again, as you know, it is not for the masses. Advaita Vedanta is for maximum, maybe 10 apparent individuals per country, maximum. You will never see in Advaita Vedanta many people. It is impossible. Why? Because the masses want to maintain their sleep, their illusion, their delusion. They don't want to wake up, because that would mean that the ego wants to get suicide. And the ego, most of the times, is not ready for a suicide. It may come the wish for a suicide or the deconstruction of its illusory existence after a lot of lifetimes of pain and suffering due to exactly the same illusion and suffering of samsara. But in general, the ego don't want to awake. The ego don't want to see its non-existence, to admit. And that's why you should have patience. I know that it is difficult in the first place to accept that everything is just like a dream, and the only reality is the impersonal consciousness, awareness, Brahman. But just do baby steps, little by little, continue your study, continue your Sravanam, which means the listening and the study of the scriptures under a competent guru in an authentic sampradaya or guru parampara. Then do your mananam, which is to clarify all your questions and to solve all your doubts. And finally, to do nididhyasanam, continue to do nididhyasanam, which is the Vedantic meditation, whereupon you internalize all the teaching that you have received from the guru and the authentic guru parampara. And sooner or later, that which is appearing now difficult to swallow, that everything, including you, is a dream, the apparent you, as an individual entity, sooner or later will become your own truth. It will not stay forever just an information that you have received from somebody or from Vedanta. And this is, of course, why we do this propagating of the teachings. For those who are ready and spiritually mature from millions of preparation of dream lifetimes, previous dream lifetimes, to see the truth and to attain what we call moksha, self-realization or enlightenment. So have patience, and you will see that little by little, everything will be clarified. If you want me, I can elaborate more if not everything clear.
Anyway, it's a marvelous answer. But no, if there are no more questions from others, I would like you to continue, of course, but we have to see with the others.
Yes, you can continue. I see there is no...
Rebecca wants to ask a question.
Rebecca, okay. So we can come back on you after. Yes, Rebecca.
Hello. So my mother is a Christian, and I believe that she does have the same connection to Jesus that I have with Krishna. I think that they're the same, absolute reality, communicating to us, basically ourselves, communicating to us in the forms that it likes or we like. I don't know. And my mother, she hears me praying to Krishna and doing Hare Krishna chants, kirtan, and she doesn't like it. She makes her really sad. And I wonder how to petition the absolute reality to reveal that it's the same to her. I don't know if that's possible. Is this possible?
Look, the truth cannot be many. The truth cannot be plural. The truth is only one, of a singular nature. And this truth is consciousness, awareness, or Brahman. Now, this consciousness can reveal itself with different Saguna Brahman, it is called, which is the divinity in different forms, according to the belief system of each and every devotee. So if for yourself, the best form of God is Krishna, and for another one is Jesus Christ or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Because we call that Saguna Brahman according to the Sastram, the scriptures, and Nirguna Brahman is consciousness awareness itself, which is formless. It doesn't have a form. But it is not easy for everybody to worship this infinite, impersonal consciousness awareness, which is formless. So the scriptures themselves allow and they reveal that it is completely legitimate to worship any form of God that you feel familiar with, without any problem at all. Actually, this is what you should do until you have the spiritual maturity to worship the infinite consciousness awareness in its real nature, which is formless. But until this spiritual maturity appears, then it's no problem at all. And actually, it is recommended to worship Saguna Brahman, which means any form of God that you feel comfortable with. And also, even in Sanatana Dharma, they have what they call Ista Devatas. So you choose, for example, Krishna or Rama or Shiva or Devi, and there is no problem at all. It is the same power, the same God, under different forms or symbols. So your mother, for example, if she feels comfortable to worship God with the form of Christ, there is no problem. Because due to previous dream lifetimes, she has a connection with this form. And she cannot stop this connection due to previous lifetimes. And yourself have connection with the form of Krishna. Another one may have connection with the form of Buddha. Another one may have connection with what they call Allah. Since you follow a moral lifestyle and you live according to the scriptures and the moral rules and what we call the dharmic rules, then your success of self-realization, enlightenment, moksha is guaranteed. Because what we call worshipping or Isvara Pranidhanam, it is purification of the mind. It is Chitta Suddhi. It is called in Sanskritam, which means the purification of the mind due to karma yoga and upasanam. Upasanam is any meditation that you do in any form of God that you feel comfortable with. And karma yoga is, in general, whatever you do as an activity, as actions towards God, offering to God and to society for the upliftment of society, loka sangraham. So everything is right and legitimate if you follow the scriptures. There is no scripture that will tell you that you must worship God in all the people should worship God in this form, you know. And even if they say that, it is wrong, because it is not really about the form. It is about shraddha or faith. And if you have faith in a particular form of God, then that is enough. So everything is according to the previous lifetimes and the connections that each and every apparent individual entity has created through different streams of truth. You know? Because we have the same truth, one truth, and one absolute consciousness, awareness, Brahman, but due to different capabilities and different spiritual maturity levels of each and every apparent individual, That's why we have different approaches. But all approaches may lead to the same God, to the same top of the mountain. You know, Satchitananda himself was practicing many spiritual traditions for many decades, and a lot of spiritual paths, different ones, and esoteric orders and fraternities, and also Dzogchen, which Dzogchen was the biggest duration, like 20 to 25 years. And actually, when you see from the top of the mountain, the view is always the same. Whether you take another path or another path or another path, upon arriving in the top of the mountain, do you think that the view will be different? No, the view is always the same. So you may arrive in the top of the mountain through another path, and another one through another path. And when they will meet in the top of the mountain, they will see the same view. And then they may understand that all the wars and all the fighting and conflict was for nothing. And the truth is always the same. So yes, the basis is to live a spiritual lifestyle, a moral lifestyle according to the dharmic rules. And then the way you are worshiping God is not really important, the form that you are choosing.
Is it because also the form is illusionary too, I suppose? Like until you're there.
Yes, consciousness, awareness, Brahman cannot be with a form because it is not an object. It is beyond any attributes. So how it can have a form?
Yeah.
Imagine something of course in inverted commas, which does not have any attributes. You cannot smell it. You cannot see it because it is formless. You cannot touch it. You cannot hear it because it doesn't have any sounds. And you cannot also describe it by any means because it is the substratum of everything, but at the same time attributeless. So how you can have a form of such an attributeless absolute? Now, if somebody will ask you to worship this absolute formless awareness, consciousness, Brahman, it is very, very difficult. Then you can choose then a Ishta Devata or a form of God that you feel comfortable with due to previous lifetimes, and sooner or later you can arrive in the spiritual maturity to be able to be in connection with this attributeless consciousness, awareness, Brahman in its real state, which is formless, attributeless, unchanging. But until that spiritual maturity, there is no any problem to worship God in any form that you choose. And also, the consciousness, awareness, Brahman, it is your own self. It is not something distinct from you. So for a lot of people, a lot of apparent individual entities, it is very, very difficult or impossible to worship God or the absolute consciousness, awareness, Brahman as its own, as their own self with capital S, self as with capital S, because they feel it is like blasphemous, you know, that they feel that they do not deserve to worship the infinite impersonal consciousness, awareness, Brahman as their own selves, because This self is what you really are, with capital S. It is you. It is not somewhere up there below the clouds or in the sky or in the heavens. It is your own self with capital S. So actually, we need to arrive in this point, in this mature state, where we are worshiping our own true self, our own true nature, as infinite awareness, impersonal consciousness, Brahman. Because there is only that. And then the worshipper and the worshipped becomes one, as it was only one from beginningless time, because there is no any duality or any plurality of any kind. The you that you want to worship God, and God is the same consciousness, awareness, Brahman. There are no two distinct parts in this worshipping. But if you cannot see that right now, it is not a problem at all. You just work, you continue your sadhana, your spiritual practice, you continue whatever you feel you need to do and to prepare yourself until you are able to worship God or your infinite impersonal self, consciousness, awareness, Brahman, as your own nature. But this is a huge step. It is a huge, better to say leap over. Not all are able to do that and to see that, to recognize that. Actually, this is what we call enlightenment, self-realization, or moksha, is to recognize and to be convinced on a permanent basis that what there is only Brahman, infinite impersonal consciousness awareness. There is only that, and this is what I am. And that's why we have the Mahavakyams, such as Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, or TATTVA Asi, I am that. But for this level of realization and spiritual maturity, not all are able to arrive. You know, it is a matter of spiritual practice and following an authentic spiritual lineage and a guru for millions of lifetimes. So until you have, or somebody have, this level of spiritual maturity, then any worshipping of God in any form is legitimate.
Thank you.
Welcome. Somebody else?
Hi. When you were talking to Mirelli earlier, you were saying that the ego doesn't want to be suicided. How can we convince the ego that? How can we make it an attractive proposition for the ego to suicide itself? Because the ego just keeps saying, like, oh no, it's just, things are going to get worse if you attain self-realization. Your life's going to be boring. It's, you know, it comes up with so many objections. How can we counteract its voice?
Yes, very nice remark and topic. You see, the ego in the first place does not exist. The individual entity, it appears to exist. It is seemingly existing, just like everything which appears and disappears due to Maya. The entire Jagrat, the universe, and all the Jivatmas, all the apparent individual beings and all the apparent objects are only an illusion, or Namarupa, names and forms, labels or thought forms or concepts, superimposed in the one and only infinite reality, which is Brahman, infinite impersonal consciousness awareness, which is of the nature of Satchitananda. It is the only reality, Sat, which means the truth, the real truth and the real existence, which means Sat, Chit, which means consciousness awareness, and Ananda, which means happiness, bliss, and peace. So our true nature is of Sat Chit Ananda. And when we can recognize this, then we don't need any other supplements for happiness, let's say, or bliss or peace, because what we truly are as our true nature or our true self is already infinite happiness, bliss, and peace. Now, the ego as a function, as a mechanism, appears and covers through the thinking process and veils this truth, this true nature or our true state. So we need, through the revelation of the Sastram, the authentic scriptures, we need to persuade the apparent ego that if it will go out of the way, if it will get suicide, even if it does not exist, then the true nature of infinite, permanent happiness, bliss and peace and bliss will appear and will make itself shine forth. But for the ego to be ready to be persuaded for that and to accept that, it has to be a lot of suffering for hundreds of lifetimes, if not thousands, or if not millions of lifetimes. Then the ego says enough is enough. Because when there is fun and everything goes well in the apparent life, then the ego is drunk and just enjoys the fleeting moments of pleasure and happiness. And all these transient moments, sooner or later, of course, they will stop. Because ask anybody if all the sectors, all the parts of life, like career, relationships, family, health, and so on and so forth, if all these sectors of life are okay or are without any problem at all, even if somebody will answer that all sectors are going fine at this moment, wait a little bit. And then you will recognize that minimum one sector, either the family sector or the relationship sector or the job sector and career or the health sector, will be a disaster sooner or later. So the ego usually is willing to listen to the teachings in this moment, when there is a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, and a lot of troubles. That's why also Ramana Maharishi, the great sage, used to say that suffering is the way to God. And we can also say it in a different way, the way to self-realization. Why? Because due to suffering and pain, then we have the appearance of questions, like, why to me? Why this pain? Why this suffering? And then gradually, who am I? Why I need to experience this pain? Why I'm here in this planet? What I need to do? And where is my destination? And where I come from? And so on and so forth. All these existential questions. When there is fun and everything goes well, and everything is beautiful in all sectors of one's life, then these questions usually do not appear. because the ego, the separate individual entity, is in a big dream, in a big sleep. But even in these cases, it may appear a kind of emptiness in the psyche of a particular individual who have everything. Somebody can have a lot of wealth, a beautiful health, and a beautiful family, and fame and glory, and everything, appearingly everything going well, and still experience a kind of emptiness or lack of fulfillment. And we can see that in many stars of Hollywood, let's say, where they have almost everything and they fall into substances or alcohol or any kind of drugs, and so on and so forth. But yes, the ego does not exist, but at the same time, it is a function, a mechanism, which needs to experience a lot of suffering in order to admit and to be persuaded that it does not exist really. And also, the ego has a function which is legitimate. Imagine the ego to be completely disappear in somebody who is not ready, and then he will not be able to function in this dream apparent reality. So imagine to go to the bank and say, hello, I'm infinite consciousness, impersonal consciousness, I want my money. You know, or what will happen with your wife or husband, or with your daughters, or with your sons, your friends, if suddenly you make the ego to disappear? No, it will not be possible to transact in this dream apparent reality. So the ego is only a function and a mechanism which is legitimate when it is only a servant, and when we can use this servant as a means to self-realization, enlightenment, moksha. So yes, we can add also that the profound truth and the revelation from the sastram, the authentic scriptures, is that the ego, first of all, does not exist, and secondly, the best way to deal with this mechanism, with this function, is the pramanam of scriptures, the teaching, the revelation from the scriptures, through the guidance of a competent guru and an authentic sampradaya or guru parampara. Because there existing a beautiful methodology, tools like prakriyas, and a lot of teaching and guidance that it can reveal the absolute truth. It can reveal that there is no such thing as individual entity. It's only an apparent individual entity. And ultimately, there is only one reality, which is Brahman, which is consciousness, awareness as impersonal nature. But this we can find only through the authentic sastram and authentic guru parampara, sampradaya, or the holy lineage, and through the guidance of a competent guru. It's a very, very difficult task, an impossible, an apparent or appearing impossible task or mission to deal with the ego. It's not easy at all. It may take millions of lifetimes. And that's why we need really all the help that we can find. And that is, of course, what I mentioned earlier, the scriptures, the authentic lineage, and a guru. Otherwise, it is even, we can say, impossible. And also, from time to time, there is this experience of Brahmananda, which is the joy and the bliss of self-knowledge. So by pursuing the self-knowledge, jnana yoga, moksha, enlightenment, self-realization, through the guidance of a guru and an authentic spiritual lineage, then we will experience from time to time this bliss, this beautiful happiness and peace due to tasting the self-knowledge, tasting what we really are, the beingness which is unlimited and unbounded. And this will give us more courage and more power to continue this path to the complete dissolution of this mechanism, of this function. It's only a function, only a mechanism. There is no such thing as an individual entity or an ego or a person or any individual being. What there is only beingness, impersonal beingness, appearing as all these different kinds of forms and names and labels. Just like us, there are no waves in the ocean, but there is only water. We may say that these are waves, but in reality, the nature of the waves is only water. There are no waves in reality. There is only this label, nama, rupa, names and forms. So the ego is also an apparent individual entity, and it is a bundle of thoughts, a bundle of memories, a bundle of vasanas and sankalpas and vrittis, different thought forms, all together is consisting what appears as an ego. But the good news is that it does not exist, really, and it is a function, a mechanism, which is legitimate for practical life, apparent in this apparent dream reality. And with the help of the sastram, the guru, and the guru parampara, we can really make the ego to not to disturb anymore, not to veil our true nature as infinite awareness, consciousness, Brahman. If you want, I can elaborate more.
I was just going to say, yeah, it definitely helps when you get some experience of some bliss or some peace. And it's so important to have to dip your toe in the water and get some experience as a carrot, if you like. Also, I was thinking about as you get older and you realize that the suffering isn't going to end at any point, and your life's getting shorter. And it's not like naturally suffering will stop. And it's probably going to get worse because, well, mentally maybe you might get better, but physically suffering is going to get worse and worse and worse. So these two things give you stronger impetus. The fact that you might get some taste of the teachings, and also that the time's running out and suffering's not going to stop.
Mm-hmm. Really, the problem is that samsara will not stop. And what is samsara is this infinite struggling, non-stop struggling for accumulation of things, worldly things, or for fleeting pleasures of life, this struggling to pursue. But sooner or later, anybody can realize that all these pleasures are impermanent, and all these fleeting experiences of pleasure also are accompanied with a lot of struggle and a lot of suffering. So you have a desire and then you struggle to pursue and to satisfy this desire. And then when you have satisfied this desire, new desires appearing. And then the ego never stops to ask for more and more and more. You can see a lot of examples, like the billionaires of this planet, for example, like Bill Gates, for example. He is not satisfied and he is still struggling. He is not satisfied with his wealth. He is even sacrificing the planet for his wealth, sacrificing people, and many, many other examples, you know. So the ego will never be satisfied. The ego will never be calm for big period of time, because all pleasures, all worldly pleasures, are impermanent. Nothing can be permanent in the world, in samsara. The only permanent happiness, bliss, and peace lies in our true nature. As Satchitananda, this is our true nature, but it is veiled through the thinking process. It is veiled by believing that you are a limited being called a human being. And as soon as somebody is getting old, then the old years, the sicknesses and the accidents and the loss of beloved persons from your life, then all this can trigger what we call the search for self-knowledge. And this is the only solution. Self-knowledge is the only way for moksha, self-realization, enlightenment. There is no other way, according to Advaita Vedanta, Upanishads, and all the great sages. The reason for suffering, the reason for pain, the root cause of all problems is lack of self-knowledge, ignorance, darkness, avidya. And that's why we are searching for Brahma Vidya, for self-knowledge, jnana yoga, because this is the only solution. How you can deal with ignorance? With knowledge. Even in the practical things, if you want to learn a foreign language and you are ignorant, let's say, of the German language or Chinese language, you need to have knowledge of one of these languages. You go to a master or a teacher who can teach you this knowledge, and then you stop being ignorant of the German language or the Chinese language. You need a teacher, and you want to stop to be ignorant, you know. And all this is the root cause of suffering and pain and miserable lifestyle. The belief system, the false misconception that what I am is a part of this apparent universe as a human being. And that's why I will always struggle for peace, security, happiness, bliss, and so on and so forth. But nothing can be found of this on a permanent basis when you have this false misconception that you are an individual being. It is impossible. The only solution is self-knowledge. This will resolve and will delete all problems and will bring our true nature to shine forth.
Is the main veiling the thought I, then, the incorrect thought I?
Yes, the I thought, when it is connected with the body-mind complex. The I thought have, as I mentioned earlier, have a practical value, and it is legitimate when we can use this I for practical reasons, and when this I becomes a servant for self-realization, enlightenment, moksha. But when this I becomes our attachment with the body-mind complex, then that brings a disaster. Because suddenly, from an infinite, unbounded consciousness, awareness, Brahman, you become a limited, a finite human being. And then it is, of course, logical to have all the problems, and you experience all kinds of misery, like fear for the future, and lack of security, and the need to accumulate more and more, the need to satisfy more and more desires, because it is this lack of self-knowledge. And this lack of self-knowledge brings all the problems. There is a constant unfulfillment, non-contentment, when you believe that you are a limited human being. But when you have this I thought in its proper function and mechanism for the practical necessities of the everyday life, then there is no problem. The Sastram and all the scriptures, and especially the Dharma Sastra, are describing when the I is legitimate to function in its proper way. For example, when you are willing to do your duties in life as a father, as a mother, as a son, as a daughter, as a professional, and so on and so forth. So when you follow the Dharmic rules, this I is not problematic. And when you have it in the proper perspective, like this I is here to serve as a servant and not as a master. But the real I, of course, is the I, as Ramana Maharishi would call it, twice I. Which, and of course, he meant the infinite impersonal consciousness, awareness, Brahman, our true self with capital S. This is the true I, the capital S self, I. The small I has only a function, a mechanism in the day-to-day, in the daily transactions. But of course, to make the I in its proper position and to allow it to function as it will be legitimate, you need all the guidance of the Sastram, and you need all the guidance of a guru and an authentic spiritual tradition. Because it by itself, it is very, very difficult or impossible.
We haven't got much time left. Just got
Yes.
a few minutes.
Somebody else wants to say something before we close for tonight? Okay, then let's close for tonight. And please study as much as you can and bring your questions in our next class or satsang, and try to also to contemplate on what we are sharing here through the Sastram, through the scriptures, and try to contemplate as often as possible during the day.
So this was the last of these classes. So the next one's going to be after we get back from India.
Yes, and we can start one class with covering possible questions from the previous text, and then from the second class we can move to the VIVEKACUDAMANI, And if somebody wants to start preparing himself or herself, can start study also VIVEKACUDAMANI, the 108 verses that my guru Swami Paramarthananda had prepared through the Avinasis platform. So thank you very much for your participation. Take care and namaste.
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 Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
See you later. I'll email everybody all the information for the upcoming classes. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
see you soon.
Bye.